Nolan, it would seem like his next film, The Odyssey, would be a big slam dunk, but it has become the most controversial movie of the year, with people disagreeing with so many choices that he's made.
Christopher Nolan is now facing serious international pressure and organized opposition from Greece itself, as Greek cultural organizations, government officials, and prominent Greek citizens have reportedly launched a coordinated campaign opposing the Odyssey and calling for the film to be cancelled, arguing that Nolan's approach to adapting Homer's foundational epic represents cultural appropriation and a fundamental disrespect for Greek heritage and mythology. According to multiple sources with knowledge of the situation, Greek cultural organizations have been quietly organizing opposition to the Odyssey for months as details about the film's casting and approach emerged, and they have apparently decided to go public with their concerns in a massive way, positioning the film not just as a problematic Hollywood project with diversity casting issues, but as a potential cultural insult to Greece and to the Greek people whose ancestors created the stories being adapted. This is absolutely explosive and represents an entirely new dimension to the controversy surrounding the Odyssey. While Christopher Nolan has been facing organized opposition from Brad Pitt and the Troy cast, while Elliot Page and Lupita Nyong'o have been suffering psychological damage from harassment campaigns, and while Universal Studios has been panicking about the film's commercial viability, an opposition movement has apparently been building from an unexpected source: Greece itself, the country and culture that actually created these stories thousands of years ago. According to entertainment journalists and sources familiar with Greek cultural organizations and government, the opposition to the Odyssey apparently began months ago as details about the film's casting and creative approach started leaking out through industry channels. Greek cultural figures, academics specializing in classical studies, and government officials apparently began discussing their concerns about how Homer's epic was being adapted and what message a major Hollywood film with controversial casting would send about Greek cultural heritage. According to sources close to these discussions, Greek cultural leaders apparently recognized that the Odyssey represented a significant opportunity to address broader concerns about how classical literature and Greek mythology are handled by Hollywood, and they apparently decided that rather than allow the film to proceed without challenge from the actual culture that created these stories, they would organize opposition and make their concerns publicly known. The campaign apparently involved several coordinated elements. First, according to reports, Greek cultural organizations and academics apparently drafted a formal statement expressing their concerns about the Odyssey's approach to adapting Homer, their objections to specific casting choices, and their argument that the film represents a form of cultural appropriation that disrespects Greek heritage and mythology. According to sources with knowledge of the statement's contents, the Greek organizations apparently argued that Homer's Odyssey is not just entertainment, it's a foundational cultural text that defines Greek civilization and that belongs to Greek heritage and culture. Any adaptation of such significant material should involve consultation with Greek cultural experts and should demonstrate respect for the source material and for the culture that created it. The casting choices in the Odyssey apparently contradict how characters are described in the original text and apparently reflect contemporary American political agendas rather than genuine respect for Homer's work. Greek cultural organizations apparently argued that if the film claims to be adapting Homer, it should honor the author's descriptions and vision rather than prioritizing contemporary diversity casting. Hollywood's track record with adapting Greek mythology apparently demonstrates a pattern of appropriating Greek cultural heritage, treating it as raw material to be reshaped for American commercial purposes, and disrespecting the actual culture and people from which these stories originated. Christopher Nolan's approach to the Odyssey apparently demonstrates exactly the kind of cultural appropriation and disrespect that Greek organizations have been concerned about. The film apparently treats Homer's epic as material to be adapted freely for contemporary purposes rather than as a sacred cultural text deserving of respectful treatment. According to reports, the Greek statement was apparently released through official channels and was apparently picked up by major international media outlets. The statement was reportedly signed by dozens of Greek cultural organizations, by prominent Greek academics and classicists, and apparently received support from Greek government officials who added their own statements expressing concern about how Greek cultural heritage was being treated. One prominent Greek government official apparently said something like, "Greece takes great pride in our cultural heritage and in the foundational stories that define our civilization. When Hollywood adapts these stories without consulting Greek cultural experts, without respecting how characters are described in the original texts, and without demonstrating genuine respect for Greek culture, it represents a form of cultural appropriation that we cannot silently accept. The Odyssey, as currently being developed, does not reflect the respect that such sacred cultural material deserves." According to sources, Greek cultural organizations apparently also organized social media campaigns designed to raise awareness among international audiences about Greek concerns with the Odyssey. The campaigns apparently emphasized that opposition to the film wasn't just about American culture war debates, but was about respecting cultural heritage and about Greece's right to have a voice in how stories central to Greek identity were being portrayed. The hashtag #RespectGreekCulture apparently began trending internationally as Greek citizens, cultural organizations, and supporters of Greek heritage apparently organized to express their concerns about the Odyssey and to call for the film to be substantially changed or canceled entirely. Greek tourism organizations apparently also expressed concern about the Odyssey, arguing that a poorly made or culturally disrespectful adaptation of Homer could potentially affect Greece's cultural brand and tourism industry, which apparently relies significantly on interest in classical Greek civilization and mythology. According to reports, Christopher Nolan apparently received the news of organized opposition from Greece with shock and apparent distress. The director apparently had not anticipated that his adaptation of Homer would face organized opposition, not just from American actors and culture war activists, but from Greece itself, from the actual country and culture that created the original stories. Nolan's representatives apparently issued a statement saying that the director deeply respects Greek culture and classical literature, and that the Odyssey was made with the utmost respect for Homer's foundational epic. But according to sources close to Nolan, the director was apparently frustrated and apparently felt that Greek opposition was based on incomplete information about the film and on misunderstandings about his creative approach. However, the Greek opposition apparently had significant impact that Nolan's statement couldn't overcome. Once a major cultural movement in Greece itself started organizing against the Odyssey, the narrative around the film apparently shifted significantly. It was no longer just American culture war activists opposing the film. It was Greek people and Greek cultural organizations arguing that their cultural heritage was being disrespected. According to sources close to Universal Studios executives, the Greek opposition apparently created new complications for the studio's decision-making about the Odyssey. International distribution is apparently a crucial element of major film releases, and Greece apparently represents an important market for tourism-related content and for films based on classical mythology. If Greece and Greek cultural organizations were organizing boycotts and calling for the film to be canceled, it apparently raised serious questions about the film's viability in international markets. Greek opposition could apparently spread to other European countries and to international audiences more broadly, particularly among people who cared about classical culture and who might view Greek concerns about cultural appropriation as legitimate. According to reports, Universal apparently faced pressure from multiple directions simultaneously. Brad Pitt and the Troy cast apparently demanding recasting or cancellation, Elliot Page and Lupita Nyong'o apparently suffering psychological damage from harassment, Christopher Nolan apparently losing faith in his own production, Greek cultural organizations, and the Greek government apparently calling for the film to be substantially changed or canceled. Social media boycott campaigns, apparently organizing internationally. Entertainment analysts and industry observers apparently questioning the film's viability. This apparently unprecedented combination of pressures from multiple sources apparently made it nearly impossible for Universal to see a path forward for the Odyssey that would satisfy any of the major stakeholders or constituencies opposing the film. According to sources close to Universal's decision-making process, some executives apparently began seriously considering whether canceling the Odyssey entirely might actually be the best option given the level of organized opposition the film was facing from multiple directions with apparently no compromise position that could satisfy everyone. The Greek opposition apparently also had the effect of lending legitimacy to other criticisms of the Odyssey's casting and approach. If Greek cultural organizations and government officials were arguing that the film disrespected the source material, it apparently validated the concerns that Brad Pitt and other Troy cast members had been raising about faithfulness to Homer's text and about respecting classical literature. According to entertainment journalists covering the situation, the Greek opposition apparently transformed the conversation around the Odyssey from being primarily about American culture war debates over diversity casting into being about broader questions of cultural respect, cultural heritage preservation, and whether Hollywood had the right to appropriate and reshape the cultural stories of other nations and peoples. Some academic and cultural commentators apparently noted the irony that Greek opposition to the Odyssey was apparently coming from the exact source that should have the most authority in determining how Homer's work should be adapted. If anyone had standing to criticize how Homer's epic was being treated, it was apparently the Greek people and Greek cultural organizations who were the inheritors of that cultural legacy. The Greek opposition apparently also raised questions about whether American studios like Universal had an ethical obligation to consult with the cultures from which classical mythology originated before making major adaptations. If Greece had organized opposition to the Odyssey before the film was even released, some observers apparently asked, shouldn't Universal have apparently anticipated such concerns and apparently consulted with Greek cultural experts during development? According to sources, Greek cultural organizations apparently began reaching out directly to Universal Studios with formal requests for meetings to discuss their concerns, to explain their position in detail, and to apparently present specific demands about what would need to change for the film to become acceptable from a Greek cultural perspective. The most significant demand apparently from Greek organizations was that substantial portions of the film apparently be reconceived to demonstrate respect for Homer's original work, that casting choices that contradicted textual descriptions be reconsidered, and that Greek cultural consultants be involved in the final editing and post-production to ensure that the film appropriately represented Greek cultural heritage. According to reports, these demands apparently went far beyond what Universal or Christopher Nolan apparently wanted to concede. Bringing Greek cultural consultants into post-production apparently meant surrendering significant creative control to external parties. Recasting actors to match Homer's descriptions apparently meant acceding to the same demands the Troy cast had been making. Substantially reconceiving portions of the film apparently meant essentially starting over on creative decisions Nolan had apparently already made. Christopher Nolan apparently responded to the Greek opposition with a statement expressing respect for Greek culture, but apparently resisting the demands for what he apparently characterized as external control over his creative vision. According to sources, Nolan apparently felt that bringing Greek government representatives or cultural organizations into his creative process would compromise his artistic independence and would represent an inappropriate level of external constraint on filmmaking. But, according to industry observers, Nolan's resistance to Greek demands apparently put him in an impossible position. He apparently couldn't satisfy the Troy cast without recasting. He apparently couldn't satisfy Greek cultural organizations without involving them in post-production decisions. He apparently couldn't move forward without facing organized opposition from multiple powerful constituencies. The international implications of Greek opposition were apparently also significant. Once Greece, an actual nation-state, was apparently organizing against the Odyssey, the film apparently faced potential complications in international distribution, international marketing, and potentially even international legal challenges from Greek cultural organizations, claiming the film violated their cultural heritage or intellectual property rights. Some entertainment lawyers apparently suggested that Greek cultural organizations might have actual legal grounds to challenge certain aspects of the Odyssey if they could argue that the film was appropriating Greek cultural heritage in ways that violated cultural property rights or that demonstrated disrespect for protecting protected cultural symbols. The prospect of international legal challenges added another layer of complication to an already catastrophic situation for the Odyssey. Even if Universal decided to release the film despite American controversies, Greek legal challenges could potentially delay or prevent international distribution in key markets. Fan reaction to Greek opposition was apparently mixed but apparently significant. Some fans viewed Greek opposition as validating concerns about the film's approach and as demonstrating that the criticism wasn't just coming from American culture war activists, but from the actual culture that created these stories. Other fans apparently expressed concern that external cultural organizations apparently exerting control over Hollywood productions represented a problematic precedent, and that it might create complications for future adaptations of classical material if every country claimed the right to constrain how their cultural heritage was portrayed. Entertainment industry analysts were apparently shocked by the emergence of Greek opposition as a major factor in the Odyssey's crisis. According to observers, the Greek movement apparently represented something unprecedented, an organized campaign from the actual source culture opposing how their foundational myths were being adapted by a major Hollywood director. Some analysts apparently suggested that the Greek opposition could apparently set a precedent that would affect how Hollywood approaches classical adaptations going forward. If Greece could apparently organize successful opposition to the Odyssey, could other countries and cultures apparently do the same if Hollywood attempted to adapt their cultural heritage? Christopher Nolan's situation apparently became increasingly untenable, as Greek opposition apparently joined with all the other pressures facing the film. The director was apparently caught between his artistic vision, demands from the Troy cast, psychological damage being inflicted on cast members, Universal's financial concerns, and now international pressure from Greece itself arguing that the film disrespected Greek cultural heritage. According to sources close to Nolan, the director apparently felt that the situation had apparently spiraled completely out of his control, and that there was apparently no creative solution that could satisfy all the constituencies apparently opposing the film from different angles and for different reasons. The Greek opposition to the Odyssey represented an entirely new dimension to the film's crisis. While American debates apparently centered on diversity casting and culture war arguments about woke ideology, the actual country and culture from which Homer's epic originated was apparently organizing to demand that their cultural heritage be treated with respect. Whether Christopher Nolan would ultimately capitulate to Greek demands, whether Universal would attempt international distribution despite Greek opposition, or whether the film would be canceled entirely to escape from the mounting pressures apparently remained unclear. What was certain was that the Odyssey had apparently become not just a controversial Hollywood project, but an international, cultural incident involving competing claims about who had the right to control how classical Greek mythology was portrayed and adapted for contemporary cinema.